Good day, I'm Dr. T and welcome to my office. So today I'd like to talk about the two things that I have found that changing on my tests have made them more accessible and more equitable for the students as a whole. And they are not hard changes to make. The first change is in structuring the test. As you're writing a test, you're thinking, well, how much test do I have and how much time do I give the students? What you'll notice is that the single most common accommodation you get is extended time. As a dyslexic individual, I got this throughout college. I used it once. It's actually not all that helpful, except for cases where it's absolutely critical. Yeah, that one time was a really brutal calculus test. Apparently the rest of the class was in tears afterwards. It was the guy's first time giving a test, I'm pretty sure. You know, we all have those tests. It happens. Okay. So this is one where if the student has, say, a learning disability, visual impairment, really basically any disability at all, it may mean that they're able to read the test at a somewhat slower speed than the rest of the students can. So if your test has a fairly strict time limit, then that's going to really hinder them. And you're going to be assessing your students on what they know and how fast they know it. Well, is that latter part really an important assessment to you? There are cases where it is. They're not very common though. So what you want to do, and what I've tried to do with all my exams, is to write an exam that fits into about half the time block that I have. I try not to have any time limit on the exam when possible. Logistics will create time limits. If you've got a 50-minute class, it's kind of hard to do much more than a 50-minute exam. But if I know that, well, I'm going to try and make it a half-hour exam. I'm going to try and shorten the exam up. If I've got a 3-hour class, okay, I'll do a 45-minute exam. Let's just be honest, once the exam's over 45 minutes, it's just brutal anyways. You remember those from grad school. Just don't inflict that, please. So, I've got maybe a 45-minute or a 30-minute exam. That way, most of my students get done pretty early, and those who need extended time have it already built into the time limit of the exam. Now, if they have formal accommodations, they will still get an extended time on that. And so quite often I will have, that form. It's like, how long do the rest of the students get? 180 minutes. They ain't gonna need 180 minutes, let alone 6 hours to take this test. It is absolutely not needed. But hey, it's there if they want it for whatever reason. Now, the second one is less about the individual test and more about your test as a whole. Everyone has bad days. Flat tire, you got sick, you spent up way too much, you got stressed out, mental health issues of some sort or another. And hey, if that day that you're having a really bad day on happens to be a big test, that could create a problem. Yeah, you could have, an A on the test, A on the test, F, A. Your average grade is what, like a C after that mess? Maybe a B, depending on how bad that F was. Yeah, that one bad grade doesn't really reflect the rest of your exams. This is something I learned my very first year teaching from the organic professor in my department. Give 4 tests, drop 1. This way, everyone has a bad day. If they have a bad day, they're going to get a bad grade on that test, but that one goes away. This cuts back on so much drama. You will thank me for this if you haven't started doing this before. And if you have done this, I'm guessing you swear by this. You're going to love this just by the drama that cuts back. Like, hey, I need to make up the test because my dog died when my car broke down. It'll be a drop test. The students don't feel the need to lie to you to try and make up some excuse. You're not trying to arbitrate excuses. You can have a pretty hard line, no makeup exams unless you're on a sporting event or some school-sponsored activity. But still have a reasonable level of accommodation to the needs of the students by saying, well, everyone has one drop test. I know you're saying, well, students blow off exams. Your A students, the ones who've done really good on the first 3 exams, will quite often kind of slough off a little bit on the 4th exam. Now, I always tell my students, please, take it. Don't worry too awful much about studying for it, but do take it. Oh, and by the way, this content is still going to be on the final. I usually don't drop the final because I'm pretty sure I'd get in trouble from admin if I did. Instead, we'll have to make some kind of accommodation in the final. And also, I typically make the final worth as little as admin will let me make the final worth. So, the 2 approaches. Try not to make your tests timed. How fast a student does the task is probably not one of your core learning objectives. If it is, that's a different story, although you're teaching a very interesting class if that's the case. Second, give 4 tests, drop 1. Having a dropped test, having a dropped of every assignment you have if possible, really cuts back on the drama, and it meets the needs of those students who have just something come up in their life, because everyone has life happen. And hey, we want to be accommodating to people because people are people. Okay, so hope you got a couple of good ideas. I will see you in later videos, and have a wonderful day.